Hello, public opinion aficionados, and welcome back to the Rasmussen Reports channel, where we like to perform vital public services, like keeping your God-given rights of free speech safe from your fellow Americans who would like to see those taken away. Now, if you understand anything about public opinion, you'll know that people won't just come out and tell you they want your speech to be censored. It takes a very discerning eye to find the right signal, and I'm here to show you that. It's just like illegal immigration. A strong majority of even Democrats, more than 2/3, will out and out tell you that it's at least somewhat important to stop illegal immigration. But here we are, with what 65% of Americans now call an invasion of the southern border by more than a 2-to-1 margin. And 58% of Americans think that Joe Biden himself has been undermining our border security since the beginning of his term. But let's talk about a little test we ran. And here's the very first question. It'll become important later. How concerned are you that to protect against misinformation and hate speech, the government might censor political dissent on the internet and social media? 47% of American likely voters are very concerned, and another 29% are somewhat concerned, for a sum total of 76% of the electorate, more than 3 out of 4 voters, who are at least somewhat concerned that the government is going to censor political dissent on the internet and social media. 15% are not very concerned, and only 5% are not at all concerned, for a total of 20% who aren't concerned. But here's the rest of the question set. How concerned are you that the internet and social media are being used to spread misinformation? And you can automatically start to see where I'm going with this. 56% of Americans are very concerned, more than the previous question. And 30% are somewhat concerned, for a total of 86%, or 10% more concerned likely voters than about censorship. 9% are not very concerned, and only 3% are not at all concerned, for a total of 12%, which is obviously less than 20%. And here's the next question. How concerned are you that the internet and social media are being used to spread hate speech? 50%, again, more than the first question, are very concerned. 28% are somewhat concerned, 78%. 12% are not very concerned, and 6% are not at all concerned. So now, here's the trick. I can compare how concerned people are about hate speech and misinformation to how concerned they are about government censorship, and show you by each demographic who is least concerned about protecting free speech. What you're looking at is something I call relative censorship rating, where that's the number of points more concerned somebody is about misinformation or hate speech than they are about government censorship. And as you can see, amongst all likely voters, 9% are more concerned about misinformation and 3% are more concerned about hate speech. But look at the demographic results by gender. Women are pretty consistent, but men are much more concerned about misinformation than they're concerned about hate speech. In fact, they're very concerned about censorship by 2 points. Here are the numbers for age, and believe it or not, it's the over 65 crowd who are much more concerned about misinformation and hate speech than they are very concerned that their government's going to be censoring them on the internet. And it's younger voters who are more sensitive, probably because they use social media more. By race, white voters are much more concerned about misinformation and hate speech. Black voters are about ambivalent, and Hispanic and other race voters are more sensitive to censorship. And here are the party numbers. There's not a very strong signal among Republicans and independents, though both of them are more concerned about censorship than hate speech, and more of them are worried about misinformation. But look at Democrats. Democrats are much more very concerned about misinformation and hate speech. Here are some more demographic numbers, political ideology, and I think you'll find them as you'd expect. But look at those numbers for self-identified liberals. We have to talk about them. They're significantly more very concerned about stopping misinformation and hate speech online than they are concerned about the government censoring political dissent. What happened to the time when liberals would tell you to your face the famous Voltaire quote, "I disapprove of what you say, but I will defend to the death your right to say it"? Times have changed, haven't they? Here are the numbers by income, and the signal you'll see is that low-income voters and the very upper-income voters are the ones who are most concerned about hate speech and misinformation, and middle-income voters could best be described as ambivalent. But let's look at education. Again, the same signal. People with the least education and the most education in America are most concerned about hate speech and misinformation online. And it's only people I'd describe as blue collar who are worried more about the government censoring political dissent. But I saved the strongest signal for last. Who, more than any other demographic, is willing to overlook the likelihood that the government may censor political dissent on social media? It's Biden approvers. Look at the strongly approved column. Biden's strong approvers are 36 points more very concerned about misinformation online, and they're 44% more very concerned about stopping hate speech than they are about political dissent being crushed by the government on social media. Biden's somewhat approvers, who usually don't have a strong opinion about anything, are also right there with Biden's strong approvers. But look at the Biden strongly disapproved column. It may not seem like much, but they are by far the most very concerned about the government cracking down on political dissent. What we like to look for as pollsters is unbiased and seemingly benign questions that drive a really big signal in demographic results. If you can think of a set of questions that'll accomplish that about the issue of censorship and freedom of speech, please drop your ideas in the YouTube comments. And while you're at it, like the video, please subscribe if you haven't already. Follow us at Twitter at Rasmussen_poll. And thanks for watching.